Uncle Trev and the Lemon by Jack Lasenby. When I was sick, Uncle Trev came in to see me and told me about how he used to go to dances when he was a young fella at the bay. We didn't have any shandry-jans then, he said, and there weren't roads for them anyway. No, your mother and all your aunts, they used to ride to dances, and when I got old enough, I was allowed to ride along with them. We used to ride over to balls at Thames, Mum said when I asked her. With our ball gowns rolled up in our saddlebags, we'd dance all night and set out over the bridle tracks to the bay the next day. Weren't you tired? We stayed with friends sometimes, Mum said, and rode back the day after. If we rode home after the ball, it'd be daylight, and we'd just let the reins go and doze in the saddle. The horses knew the track. They were used to bringing us home half asleep. Must have taken a long time, I said. Took ages, Mum said, but it was worthwhile. We'd have ridden the length of the peninsula for a dance in those days. She thought a minute and said, sometimes we'd stay the night at Gumtown with Mrs. Bryce. Once, your grandfather was there to meet us, he and the boys. They rowed us home down the river. We dropped down with the tide so it was easier. How did the horses get home? The boys had to go up to Mill Creek next day with some sheep or something, and they brought the horses back with them. All that trouble just to go to a dance? Oh yes, especially a ball. What's a ball? It's more formal, Mum said. All the ladies had ball gowns and wore their hair up. The gentlemen wore tails, starched shirts and bow ties. You had a dance program, like a little book, and your partners asked you for a dance and wrote their names in your program. There was one ball I remember, a patriotic ball it might have been. Half the girls in the bay rode over for it. We talked about what we were going to wear for months. We talked about it for months afterwards too. It was the first time your Uncle Trev was allowed to go to the ball itself. He had ridden over with us before, but he'd always had to sleep in the stables with the other boys while we danced. He disgraced us, Mum said. He wasn't allowed to go with us again. When I think of what the young monkeys did. Well, what did he do, Mum? Well, he wasn't dressed up for the ball, Mum said. He was just allowed to sneak in for an hour or two, he and young Ellie Snow from out the end of the beach, so long as they were quiet and kept out of sight. Your uncle was wearing a new Norfolk jacket, I remember, Mum said. Mother had brought it home from Auckland, the last time she'd been up on the steamer. Was there a steamer from the bay? Ah, Whakatane steamer. Men used to row us out in the whaleboat and wave a lantern. The steamer would stop and pick us up. Well, what did Uncle Trev do? Well, there was an orchestra, Mum said. They played for all the balls and dances. Oh, the music was lovely. We danced in our long frocks, and the men in black and white. It was a picture. Things just aren't the same today. The men wore white gloves, of course. Why? So they didn't go marking the backs of our dresses with their great sweaty hands, I suppose. It was much harder keeping things clean in those days. Not many houses had hot running water then. No, what did Uncle Trev do? Oh, the band got up on stage to play an item. They used to do that occasionally, and they'd often have somebody sing. But what did he do? I'm telling you, just listen. Well, the band was on the stage playing something, and they were all blowing away oompa oompa, you know the way bands do. Could never stand band music. But what did he do? I'm coming to that. Just be patient. Well, your uncle and that Ellie Snow were right up the front between us and the stage. Everybody was standing on the floor so they could see. And there were a lot of children up the front. I suppose they should have all been home in bed, but they were there anyhow. And that uncle of yours and that Ellie Snow, they put lemons out of their pockets and sucked them in front of the bandsmen. Well, you can imagine trying to blow one of those great brass instruments and somebody sucks a lemon in front of you. Your mouth dries up, and you can't get a note out of your instrument. Those brats of boys, they sucked their lemons, their eyes all screwed up and their mouths wrinkled and puckered with the sourness, and one by one the band stopped playing. The instruments squeaked, made the most terrible noises, till they put them down and pointed at the boys. Some of the bandsmen had tears in their eyes. Well, what happened? The master of ceremonies came forward to see what was happening. By now, most of the band were on their feet. Some were laughing. Some were shaking their fists at the boys. They'd drop their lemons and run like rats through the crowd. I stepped between the MC and your uncle, as if by accident, and he hid behind my long skirts, then shot out of the door into the night. Did they catch him? No, and I pretended I'd never seen him before. The band tried to play again, but their mouths had dried up, so the orchestra played something. A waltz, I think, and we all danced again. And what about Uncle Trev? He and Ellie hid in the stables. They slept in the straw with the horses, and we woke them in the morning and started off for the bay. Did you have any sleep? None. We danced all night, but we slept as the horses carried us over the range. You must have liked dancing when you were young, I said. We did. Now, you'd better have a sleep yourself. You're still sick, you know. I've been in bed for ages and ages. Yes, and you've still got a long way to go before you're better. Mum? Yes. Did Uncle Trev get a hiding when you got home? No, not then. We didn't tell on him, but your grandfather went over to Coromandel on the coach a couple of weeks later and heard all about it from somebody who'd been down at the hall. He stopped the coach coming down the Kaimara, cut a supplejack switch, and gave your uncle something to remember him by as soon as he got back to the bay. Did Uncle Trev cry? Suppose not. Why not? Boys weren't supposed to cry. He'd have shown Ellie Snow where he'd been switched and told him it didn't hurt, but I'll bet he cried when he was on his own. He always did. I know because I caught him crying often, though he always pretended he wasn't. Did you ever get a hiding? Of course not. Now off you go to sleep. Must have been fun in the olden days, when you grew up in the bay. Yes, my mother said. I suppose it was fun.